Lila, don't play with your food, Nathan snapped, his eyes narrowing sharply at our 10-year-old daughter. I tensed, preparing myself for another evening filled with his harsh criticism. Just as I was about to defend Lila, she suddenly pushed her plate away, spilling the food onto the pristine tablecloth. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling with regret. "I didn't mean to." Nathan slammed his fist down on the table, causing both of us to flinch. "How many times have I told you? We don't waste food in this house." My heart pounded as his face flushed red and a vein throbbed on his forehead. That familiar look, the calm before the storm, sent a chill down my spine. Before I could step in, Lila's small hand accidentally knocked over Nathan's prized baseball, the one signed by Babe Ruth. It tumbled off the table and hit the floor with a dull thud. Time seemed to freeze as Nathan's eyes widened in shock. He glared at Lila, who shrank back in her chair. "You little brat! Do you have any idea how much that's worth?" he growled. Rising from his seat, I placed a shaky hand on his arm. "Nathan, please. It was an accident." But he shrugged me off, his focus fixed solely on our daughter. "This is unacceptable behavior, Lila. You need to learn respect." Lila's lips trembled as tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm really sorry." To my horror, Nathan reached for his belt, and I knew exactly what would come next. It was a cycle I had seen far too many times. His anger escalating, followed by physical punishment masked as discipline. Yet this time, something changed in Lila's eyes. Her tears stopped, and she sat up straight, meeting Nathan's gaze with unwavering resolve. "No, Daddy. I won't let you hurt Mommy anymore." My breath caught in my throat as her words hung heavy in the room, lifting the veil I had long ignored. The painful truth I had been denying for years. Nathan froze, his face twisting in rage and disbelief. "What did you say?" Lila turned to me, her expression a mixture of determination and sorrow. "Mommy, I've seen how he treats you. The yelling, the pushing, the bruises you try to hide. It's not right." My carefully constructed facade shattered as tears streamed down my face. All the excuses I had made, all the lies I told myself and others, unraveled in that single heart-wrenching moment. Nathan's face drained of color as he stared at us, his mouth agape. For once, he was speechless, stripped of control and power. In that surreal silence, I realized that my brave, sweet daughter had given me the strength I had been lacking all these years, the strength to face the truth, to protect her, and to break free from the cycle of abuse that had defined my life. As I wrapped my arms around Lila, holding her close, I knew our lives would never be the same. But for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope, a hope for a future free from fear and oppression, a future where love overcame violence. The shattered remains of Nathan's cherished baseball lay scattered on the floor, a fitting symbol for the illusion that had just been destroyed. And in that moment, I vowed never again to let anyone control or diminish me. The aftermath of that fateful dinner hit our household like an explosion. The silence following Lila's revelation was overwhelming, broken only by the occasional clatter as Nathan paced back and forth, running his hands through his disheveled hair. "How dare you!" he hissed, shooting daggers at Lila with his eyes. "How dare you disrespect me like this, in my own home?" Lila flinched, but stood her ground. "I'm sorry, Daddy, but I won't let you hurt Mommy anymore." Nathan spun around to face me, his face twisted with fury. "Is this true, Janelle? Have you been filling her head with lies about me?" I swallowed hard, my heart pounding fiercely in my chest. This was the confrontation I had feared for years, the moment that could either set me free or trap me further in his web of control. "No, Nathan," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Lila's telling the truth. I can't pretend anymore." His eyes narrowed as he took a step toward me, fists clenched tightly at his sides. Pretend? You think this is some kind of game? Before he could come any closer, Lila stepped between us, her small frame trembling but her eyes blazing with determination. Don't you dare touch her! Nathan recoiled as if struck, his expression a mix of disbelief and rage. How dare you speak to me like that, you ungrateful little brat! Don't call her that, I snapped, surprising even myself with the strength in my voice. Nathan whipped his head toward me, and for a moment I feared he might strike me, but something in my defiance seemed to give him pause. This is your doing, Janelle, he hissed. You've turned my own daughter against me. I shook my head, a strange calm washing over me. No, Nathan. I've done nothing but endure your rage and abuse for far too long. Lila's just the one brave enough to see the truth. His face reddened as he opened his mouth to retort, but I raised a hand, cutting him off. I'm done, Nathan. Done living in fear, walking on eggshells around you, making excuses for your behavior. It stops now. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his features, and for the first time, I saw a crack in his armor of control. You can't be serious, he scoffed, though his words lacked their usual conviction. I've never been more serious in my life, I said firmly, my voice unwavering. This ends tonight. Nathan's gaze shifted between Lila and me, and I saw the realization dawn on him, the years of manipulation and mind games unraveling before his eyes. You'll regret this, he spat venomously. You won't have a penny to your name. I'll make sure of it. I squared my shoulders, bolstered by a strength I hadn't known in years. I don't care about your money, Nathan. All I care about is escaping you and your abuse. His eyes widened, and for a moment I thought he might lash out in desperation, but Lila's resolute stance seemed to halt him, and he shook his head in disbelief. Fine, he growled. Get out then. See how far you get without me. With that, he spun on his heel and stormed out of the room, leaving Lila and me standing amid the ruins of our former life. I pulled my daughter close, tears of relief and determination streaming down my face. The facade had shattered, and there was no turning back. It was time to break free, no matter what it took. In the days that followed my confrontation with Nathan, tension thickened the air in our home. He often stormed out without a word, returning late at night reeking of alcohol. Lila and I tiptoed around him, uncertain when his dormant rage might erupt again. During this turbulent period, I reconnected with an old friend, Mariah. We had grown distant after I married Nathan, his controlling nature gradually cutting me off from my support network. But when I finally summoned the courage to confide in Mariah about the reality of my marriage, she became a pillar of strength. Janelle, you have to get out of there, she urged, her voice heavy with concern during our video call. What he's doing is abuse, plain and simple. I nodded, blinking back tears. I know, but it's not that easy. He's threatened to take everything from me if I leave, including Lila. Mariah's eyes hardened with determination. Over my dead body. We'll find a way, Janelle. You and Lila deserve so much better than this. Her unwavering support was like a lifeline, giving me the courage to take the first hesitant steps toward freedom. With Mariah's help, I began carefully documenting every instance of Nathan's abuse, his outbursts, threats, and the rare but terrifying physical confrontations. I started squirreling away what little money I could, opening a secret bank account in preparation for our eventual escape. Meanwhile, Lila and I began subtly undermining Nathan's control in small ways. We would accidentally leave doors unlocked, misplace his belongings, and question his decisions in front of others. It was a dangerous game, but one that slowly chipped away at his perceived dominance. What's wrong with you two? He would roar, his face twisted with fury. Are you trying to make me look like a fool? Of course not, dear, I would reply, feigning innocence. We're just a bit forgetful sometimes. Lila would nod solemnly, her wide eyes innocent. Nathan would seethe, jaw clenched, but he never quite caught us in outright defiance. As the weeks passed, the tension in our home grew thick, like an impending storm on the horizon. Nathan became increasingly volatile, his temper flaring at the slightest provocation. It was during one of these furious outbursts that the final spark for our escape plan ignited. "You ungrateful wretches!" Nathan bellowed, slamming his fist on the table hard enough to rattle the dishes. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" Lila flinched, but I held her gaze, refusing to shrink away. "What exactly have you done for us, Nathan?" I asked, my voice deceptively calm. "Aside from making our lives a living hell." His eyes widened in disbelief, and for a moment I feared he might strike me. But Lila's small hand slipped into mine, steadying me and filling me with strength. "You think you can intimidate us with your tantrums?" I continued, my voice growing firmer. "Those days are over. We're not afraid of you anymore." Nathan's face flushed a deep, alarming red. He opened his mouth to unleash another torrent of abuse, but this time I cut him off. "Save your breath," I said, rising from the table. "We're leaving tonight." His eyes narrowed, a cruel sneer twisting his lips. "You'll never make it without me. I'll find you, and when I do—" But I didn't let him finish. With Lila's hand firmly in mine, I turned and walked away, leaving him sputtering in impotent rage behind us. As we packed our meager belongings, a fierce determination surged through me. The storm had gathered, and now it was time to weather it, no matter what obstacles stood in our path. In the days following our decision to leave, Nathan's behavior grew increasingly erratic and menacing. It was as if he sensed his grip slipping away, driving him into a desperate frenzy. "You think you can just walk away from me?" he snarled. One evening, he snarled, cornering me in the kitchen while Lila was at school. "After everything I've given you?" I stood my ground, refusing to back down. "You've given us nothing but misery, Nathan. We deserve better." His eyes narrowed as he stepped closer, invading my personal space. "Better? You ungrateful bitch! Without me, you'd be nothing." The stale scent of alcohol on his breath made my stomach turn, but I held firm, my heart pounding fiercely. "That's where you're wrong," I said, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. "Without you, we'll finally be free." A muscle twitched in his jaw. For a moment, I thought he might hit me. Then a cruel smile spread across his face, chilling me to the bone. "Free?" he scoffed. "You'll never be free of me, Janelle. I own you, and that little brat of a daughter you've turned against me." My hands clenched into fists at my sides, and I bit back the urge to strike. "You don't own us, Nathan," I ground out, voice trembling with barely contained fury. "We're not your possessions." His smile twisted into a sneer as he leaned in, his breath hot on my face. "We'll see about that." Before I could react, he grabbed my arm with a vice-like grip, his fingers digging into my flesh. I cried out, trying to pull away, but he held fast. "Let go of me," I demanded, but my words only seemed to ignite his rage further. "Or what?" he taunted, eyes glinting with malice. "You'll run away like a scared little mouse? You're not going anywhere, Janelle, not until I say so." Panic clawed at my chest as I struggled, but it was useless. He was stronger, fueled by years of pent-up anger and desperate need for control. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, a small voice broke through the tension. "Daddy, stop! You're hurting her!" We both froze as Lila stepped into the kitchen, her eyes wide with fear and determination. Nathan's grip loosened slightly, but he didn't let go. "Stay out of this, Lila," he growled. "This is between your mother and me." But Lila didn't back down. "No, Daddy." "It's not just about you anymore. We're leaving, and you can't stop us." Nathan's face twisted with rage as he shoved me aside and turned his attention to our daughter. "You little brat! You think you can talk to me like that?" Before he could step towards her, I placed myself between them, heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve. "Don't you dare touch her." I warned, voice low and steady. Nathan's eyes widened in disbelief, momentarily taken aback by my defiance. "Or what?" he sneered, though there was a flicker of uncertainty in his gaze. I squared my shoulders, drawing strength from Lila standing firmly behind me. "Or you'll regret it," I said, my words heavy with conviction. "This ends now, Nathan. One way or another, we're walking out of here, and you can't stop us." His eyes narrowed and fists clenched, his whole body trembling with barely restrained fury. For a moment I feared he might lash out in blind rage. Then something changed in his expression, a glimmer of realization that his power was slipping through his fingers like sand. With a snarl of impotent rage, he turned and stormed out of the kitchen, leaving Lila and me standing together, our bond stronger than ever. As I pulled my daughter into a fierce embrace, I knew the tide had finally turned. Nathan's desperation had pushed us to our limits, and now there was no turning back. The time to escape had arrived. In the aftermath of Nathan's explosive outbursts, Lila and I huddled close, our hearts still pounding from the confrontation. It was a harsh reminder that our plan to flee needed to move forward, no matter the danger. As I held my daughter tightly, trying to calm her shaking, a sudden knock at the door made us both jump. My blood ran cold, fearing Nathan had returned to unleash his fury once again. But when I cautiously peered through the peephole, I was met with an unexpected sight: Nathan's business partner, Michael, shifting nervously on the doorstep. "Janelle," he said quietly. When I cracked the door open, he added, "I need to talk to you. It's important." I hesitated, glancing back at Lila, who gave a silent nod of encouragement. With trembling hands, I let Michael inside, my mind racing with possibilities. Once the door closed behind us, Michael wasted no time. "Janelle, I know what's been happening," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of shame and resolve. "The way Nathan treats you, the way he rules by fear and intimidation, is wrong." My heart skipped a beat as I absorbed his words. Had our struggles been visible to others all along? Sensing my hesitation, Michael continued, "I'm not the only one who's noticed, Janelle. Others at the firm are aware of Nathan's behavior, both at home and at work." A flicker of hope ignited within me, even as dread coiled in my stomach. If Nathan's colleagues knew his true nature, it could either be our salvation or our downfall. "What do you mean?" I whispered. Michael's gaze hardened with determination. "We've been documenting his actions, collecting evidence of his unethical conduct and abuse of power. It's only a matter of time before the truth comes out, and he's held accountable." I glanced silently at Lila. She gave a small nod, and I turned back to Michael, gathering my courage. "And what does this mean for us?" I asked, voice stronger now. Michael's expression softened, sympathy shining in his eyes. "Janelle, we know what he's put you through, and we want to help." My breath caught as the weight of his words settled over me. Help, a lifeline I hadn't dared to hope for. "How?" I asked, voice trembling with a mix of hope and fear. Michael reached into his jacket pocket and produced a small flash drive. "This contains evidence of Nathan's wrongdoings, both personal and professional, enough to ensure he can never hurt you again." He held out the drive to me, his eyes steady. "Take it, Janelle. Use it to protect yourself and your daughter. And remember, you have allies, even in the shadows." My hand trembled as I accepted the drive, its weight grounding me in that surreal moment. Allies, a concept so foreign yet so desperately needed. "Thank you," I whispered, voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what to say." Michael shook his head, a grim smile tugging at his lips. "Don't thank me. Just promise me you'll use this to get away from him, for good." I nodded, determination flooding through me. "I promise." As Michael turned to leave, he paused with his hand on the doorknob. "One more thing, Janelle. Be careful. Nathan is dangerous and will stop at nothing to keep control." His words sent a chill down my spine, but I refused to let fear rule me anymore. "We'll be ready," I said, voice steady and resolute. Michael gave a solemn nod and slipped quietly into the night, leaving Lila and me alone with our newfound allies and the heavy burden of the evidence now in our hands. As I clutched the flash drive in my hand, I realized our escape plan had gained a new urgency. The storm clouds were closing in, but this time we wouldn't face them alone. The weight of Michael's evidence, and the knowledge that allies were working quietly behind the scenes, gave fresh momentum to our preparations. Lila and I knew we had to act swiftly before Nathan caught wind of the gathering storm around him. In the days that followed, we worked tirelessly, gathering the few belongings we could carry and stockpiling supplies for the journey ahead. Mariah remained our steadfast support, offering a safe haven to flee to when the moment came. "Are you sure about this, Janelle?" she asked one night, her voice low during a video call. "Once you leave, there's no turning back." I glanced at Lila, who was methodically packing her backpack with the essentials we'd need. Her eyes met mine, shining with a determination far beyond her years. "I'm sure," I replied, turning back to Mariah with a resolute nod. "We can't live like this anymore. It's time to break free, no matter what it takes." Mariah's expression softened, a mix of pride and worry crossing her face. "All right, just say the word and I'll be there to pick you up." With our plans set in motion, the tension in our home became almost tangible. Nathan seemed to sense the change in the air, his eyes narrowing suspiciously whenever he caught Lila and me whispering together. "What are you two up to?" he would demand, his voice edged with barely contained fury. We would exchange a knowing glance, then turn back with feigned innocence. "Nothing, dear. Just talking about school." His jaw would clench, nostrils flaring, but he could never catch us in the midst of our preparations. Finally, the night of our escape arrived. Nathan had stormed off after another explosive argument, leaving us a narrow window to slip away unnoticed. "Are you ready?" I asked Lila, my heart hammering in my chest as we gathered our meager belongings. She nodded, her small face set in a mask of determination that both broke and filled my heart. "Ready, Mom." With trembling hands, I dialed Mariah's number on our burner phone, a lifeline in my grasp. "It's time," I whispered as she answered, my voice thick with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "I'm on my way," Mariah responded, steady and reassuring. "Stay strong, Janelle. Help is coming." As we waited for Mariah's arrival, every creak and groan of the old house seemed amplified, setting my nerves on edge. What if Nathan returned early? What if he caught us before we could escape? But then a familiar car pulled up outside, and Lila's small hand slipped into mine, grounding me in the moment. "Let's go, Mom," she said, her voice trembling, yet her eyes shining with determination. Taking a deep breath, I hoisted our meager belongings and followed my daughter into the night, leaving behind the prison of our former life. As we slipped into Mariah's waiting car, I glanced back at the house one last time. The curtains in Nathan's study fluttered, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw his silhouette in the window, watching our escape. A shiver ran down my spine, but I refused to let fear take hold. "Not this time. Drive," I said, my voice steady and resolute. Mariah didn't need to be told twice. With a sharp nod, she peeled away from the curb, whisking us into the night and toward an uncertain future, one that was ours to shape, free from Nathan's oppressive shadow. As the miles stretched between us and our former prison, a weight lifted from my shoulders, replaced by exhilaration and newfound determination. We were free. Nothing, not even Nathan's wrath, would ever chain us again. In the weeks following our daring escape, Lila and I constantly looked over our shoulders, half expecting Nathan to appear and drag us back into his web of control and abuse. But as days turned into weeks and we settled into our new life with Mariah's support, the constant fear gradually gave way to cautious hope. It was during this time that the first cracks in Nathan's carefully constructed facade began to show. Whispers of his unethical business practices and abusive behavior began circulating, fueled by anonymous leaks from his former colleagues. At first, the rumors were little more than idle gossip, easily dismissed by Nathan's legal team and PR machine. But as more damning evidence emerged, scrutiny intensified, quickly spiraling into a full-blown media firestorm. "Have you seen the news?" Mariah asked one morning, her voice a mixture of triumph and concern as she handed me a newspaper. My heart skipped as I took in the headline emblazoned across the front page: "Local businessman accused of abuse and corporate misconduct." A grainy photo of Nathan accompanied the article, his face twisted in a snarl as he pushed through a crowd of reporters. The caption read, "Moore denies allegations, vows legal retaliation." A surge of conflicting emotions overwhelmed me. Relief that the truth was finally emerging, tempered by the lingering fear that Nathan's wrath would inevitably find us. "He's not going to let this go, is he?" I murmured, my fingers tracing the lines of his enraged expression. Mariah shook her head grimly. "Probably not, but we're ready for him, Janelle. He can't hurt you anymore." Her words were a sobering reminder of the allies we had, those who risked everything to expose Nathan's misdeeds and provide us with the evidence to protect ourselves. As the days passed, the media frenzy around Nathan's scandals only intensified. Reporters camped outside his office and home, shouting questions and snapping photos as he struggled to maintain his crumbling facade of control. "No comment," he snarled, pushing his way through the throng of journalists, his face contorted with fury. But the leaks kept coming, each new revelation more damning than the last. Evidence of financial misconduct, allegations of sexual impropriety, and even whispers of criminal activity. It was as if a floodgate had burst open, washing away Nathan's carefully crafted image with an unstoppable torrent of truth. Throughout it all, Lila and I watched from the safety of our new home, a strange sense of karmic justice washing over us as Nathan's downfall unfolded. "He deserves it, doesn't he, Mom?" Lila asked one evening, eyes glued to the news coverage of yet another devastating exposé. I hesitated, torn between my desire for justice and the lingering fear that Nathan's reach might still stretch beyond our grasp. "I don't know, honey," I finally replied, pulling her close. "But what I do know is that he can't hurt us anymore. We're safe, and that's all that matters." Lila nodded, her brow furrowed as she considered my words. Then a small smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. "I'm glad he's getting what he deserves," she said, her voice laced with a conviction far beyond her years. "After everything he did to us, it's only fair." Looking into her eyes, now shining with newfound strength and resilience, I couldn't help but swell with pride. My daughter, once so small and vulnerable in the face of Nathan's rage, had emerged a fierce warrior, her spirit unbroken by the trials we'd endured. In that moment, I knew no matter what the future held, we would face it together, stronger, wiser, and forever free from Nathan's shackles. His empire might crumble, his reputation lie in tatters, but we possessed something far more precious: our freedom, our dignity, and a bond no vicious attack could sever. As the news continued to chronicle Nathan's rapid fall from grace, a part of me reveled in the sweet taste of justice, not for myself, but for the countless others who had suffered under his tyranny. The monster had been exposed, and now he would face the consequences of his actions, one devastating blow at a time. As the dust settled on Nathan's spectacular collapse, Lila and I found ourselves at a crossroads, faced with the daunting task of rebuilding our lives from the ashes of our former existence. "Where do we go from here, ma'am?" Lila asked one evening, the flickering glow of the TV illuminating her thoughtful expression. I exhaled slowly, pondering her question. For so long, our world had revolved around survival, dodging Nathan's fury, plotting our escape, clinging to the hope of freedom. But now that we had achieved that elusive goal, the path ahead felt both daunting and exhilarating. "Anywhere we want, honey," I said finally, reaching out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "The world is ours now." A small smile tugged at the corners of Lila's mouth, and I saw a glimmer of the carefree child she had once been. before Nathan's oppression had stolen her innocence. "I like the sound of that," she murmured, her eyes sparkling with newfound hope. In the weeks that followed, Lila and I made the difficult decision to leave our temporary refuge with Mariah and strike out on our own. As grateful as we were for her unwavering support, we both felt the need to forge our own path, free from the lingering shadows of our past. With the help of the evidence provided by Nathan's former colleagues, I was able to secure a modest settlement from his rapidly collapsing empire. Not nearly enough to make up for years of torment, but a beginning nonetheless. So, armed with our meager belongings and a renewed sense of determination, Lila and I set out for a fresh start in a new town, leaving the specter of Nathan's abuse firmly behind us. As we settled into our cozy apartment, unpacking the few possessions we had managed to salvage, I couldn't help but marvel at the journey that had brought us here, the strength it took to break free, the courage to face the unknown, and the resilience to move forward despite overwhelming odds. "Are you happy, Mom?" Lila asked one evening as we sat together on our second-hand couch, the aroma of takeout pizza filling the room. I looked around our modest space, the mismatched furniture, the peeling paint on the walls. To an outsider, it might have seemed a life of hardship and struggle, but in that moment, all I felt was a deep sense of contentment and gratitude. "Happier than I've been in a very long time," I replied, pulling her into a warm embrace. Lila snuggled close, a contented sigh escaping her lips. "Me too, Mom. Me too." In the months that followed, Nathan's name faded from the headlines, his misdeeds replaced by the next sensational story. But for us, his legacy lived on in the scars we bore, both physical and emotional, and the hard-earned lessons etched deep in our souls. I'd be lying if I said his shadow didn't sometimes linger, casting occasional doubts and fears across our newfound peace. But each time those whispers from the past threatened to overwhelm us, we drew strength from the bond forged in the fires of our struggle. We were survivors, warriors, and above all, a family united by an unbreakable love that carried us through the darkest storms. As I watched Lila blossom into a confident, compassionate young woman, her laughter filling our little apartment, I knew our story was one of triumph over adversity, a testament to the indomitable spirit that led us to freedom. Nathan's reign of terror was over, his power and influence reduced to ashes. But from those ashes, we rose like a phoenix, our wings spread wide as we soared toward a future of our own making. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges awaited us, we would face them together, unbroken, unstoppable, and forever free.